Good morning and welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I'm your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince. It's Monday. Hopefully, you had a great weekend. 4th of July was this past week. Some people had off, some people did not have off. If you were one of the lucky ones who had off, wonderful. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But happy 4th, and let's move on today. TheEvilDM.com is my website. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address. Facebook.com/evildumpster to get in contact with me. You could support me by clicking on Spotify, support this podcast for 99 cents a month, or you could join up on YouTube for 99 cents a month to get access to videos ahead of time, along with a members only stream every Friday that Jeff and I do, along with Wednesdays are just normal public streams, but your own personal one on Friday. You can also head to ko-fi.com/evilDM or ko-fi.com/evilDM, and you can support me there as well. Various ways to do it. Some people had asked and told me to promote those things every once in a while, and I try to, but I don't always like to do it all the time. Got an email from Mr. Jay Johnson asking, he's a dedicated listener to the podcast. I appreciate that. I've been thoroughly enjoying your insights on tabletop gaming since I found it recently, and I'm impressed by your depth of knowledge and engaging manner in which you share it. Well, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jay Johnson. I would love for you to discuss a topic on character backgrounds and how to make them better for me as a DM. Thank you very much, Mr. J. Johnson. Well, brief and to the point, Mr. J. Johnson, and I appreciate the email. Well, it's kind of hard, especially if you game hop, to do character backgrounds or expect a player to do a character background because they're not going to want to if you game hop a lot. If you don't put a lot of emphasis into your character development as far as NPCs and stuff like that, the players won't either. So you're going to try to build a rich story as far as background and characters and things like that and show them, for one, that you do care. Now, if you're planning a campaign and you're just like, well, it's only going to be about, 10 weeks of gaming. Like, generally, I've been doing that too recently. I'll say, okay, we'll play 10 sessions of this, and then we'll reevaluate, see what everybody thinks about the game, and decide if we want to continue from there. No, I won't kibosh it unless I'm not having fun at all as a GM. But after 10 episodes, I will ask the group and say, what do you think? Should we continue? How do you want to continue? What do you want to see more of? It's kind of like a feedback session. And it puts your players a little bit more invested into the game, so they'll want to play it and want to do more in it. Now, getting players to do a good background, difficult. But a system that I came up with a long time ago, and I forgot exactly where I got the inspiration from. I think it was from on Google Plus days, and I believe it was a guy named Carl Kiesler. I can't remember what his name was. I apologize to him. Good guy. He used to run a lot of Savage Worlds Ghostbusters and stuff like that. He had a 1x1x1 system, I think it was called, but I started calling it the ARC system. Only for the simple fact because it made it easier to remember them and also say than 1x1x1. So what you can do is start the players off by having them pick an ally, a rival, and a contact. So that's what ARC stands for. Ally, rival, and contact. Now, the ally could be anybody as far as, a personal family member or somebody that'll go stick their neck out for them. Not somebody that'll be like, the president of the United States or, the captain of the guards. It basically is someone that you knew in your life, maybe you grew up with, that will be there when you need them the most. They may or may not drop everything, but they will come to your aid, depending on the situation. Now, it's a good idea once you pick that, you have your player write just like a brief sentence about this person and how they know them and why they know them. And of course, you as the GM have to approve these things. You can't just, let them have whatever they want. So I like to have them write at least a sentence just to show how they know this ally and why they know this ally. And if it makes sense for the character, then yeah, generally it always has made sense. Now, a rival is someone obviously that you either grew up with or you gained along the way that just absolutely can't stand you and wants to see you fail at all costs. Doesn't want to see you dead, but does want to see you fail at all costs. It could be as easy as you were in a shop and you tried to steal something from this shop and this owner caught you and you flat out lied and he knew you didn't tell the truth, and that's how you got a rival. This person follows you around, pops up when you least expect it, and he will try to screw you over regardless. Of course, you won't die, but he will screw you over regardless. And I've had players have many of these characters in their campaign, and one one that was famous in my campaign for probably close to 10 years, thinking about it, was Rupert. He was in many campaigns of mine, and he was always after David's character, one of my players, David, who always named his character. He always had a legacy character called Old Hughie, and Rupert was his rival. So regardless of what fantasy game we played, Rupert would show up, and he'd always be suspicious of Rupert. So that's how he got a rival, and it was kind of a funny thing. But and a contact was the last one. Now, a contact could be someone that you know somewhere. Maybe you will know a local police officer, or maybe you know someone at the newspaper that you can contact, or somebody in local government. Something in a small position, someone that you can contact, maybe someone in the underworld, that sells black market items that you can contact. How do you know them? Why do you know them? And by the time all this is done, you actually have probably close to maybe a 2 paragraphs worth of a backstory for a character. And it starts to fill in the colors of the character instead of making him just a plain black and white or gray character. You now have a colorful character with some type of background that the players can actually look at. And in the middle of your campaign, look down and be like, "Oh yeah, I got a contact for that. How about I contact Jimmy Smith? He is in the black market and he knows about black market items, and we're looking for this diamond necklace of Pterodan. He would definitely have an idea of that. I would think, at least, being in the black market. GM, what do you think? All right, well, you give him a contact, and I'll give it a roll and see if he knows. There's a pretty good chance he's in the black market. He might know. Things like that spark a story, spark inspiration, and will give you a long time worth of playing, especially when you have this. Now, there's some games that actually have these things built into it, like White Wolf games, D6 games, um, DC Heroes has it built into it as well. I think Marvel might have it built into it as well. Uh, Unisystem has it built into it as well, and so does Cortex. These are all things you have to take for like advantage and disadvantage. I'm talking about using this in games that don't necessarily have it, and you can also still use it in a game system that has these things as disadvantages, advantages. I'm just giving you an option of 1-1-1-1. And you can make it more if you really want to. If you want to make it 2 allies, 2 rivals, 2 contacts, everything has to be even though. It has to be 2-2-2, 3-3-3, 4-4-4. If a player wants to go a little bit crazy and they want 4 or 5 of each of the things, I would suggest let them write it out and then come talk to you during character creation and see what you think. Maybe it's a little too much. Maybe you might be like, why don't you knock it down to 2 of each? Be a little bit more interesting that way. But it's always fun to see what some players come up with when it comes to the ARC system, and I think everybody should try to incorporate it into their games when there's no option, at least in the game, to pick these things. And just because it has it in the system as an advantage or a disadvantage doesn't necessarily mean that a player will pick it. If I have so many points to pick for advantage and disadvantages, contact is probably not one I'm going to pick. Ally or rival, definitely one I'm not going to pick. So if you have a game that has that in it and none of your players pick that, I would absolutely do the arc system for a background, just so you can hit a little flavor into the character and see what they look like. And it gives you a good idea into the mindset of the player as well, what they think about their character. Because if they have an ally from their childhood that helped them do this or that, and they also have a contact that kind of matches that, Like maybe the black market contact, their ally is a thief, and their rival is another gang leader. You've got an idea of what their character is kind of forming in their head and what they want to be. So it actually gives you a good idea. So I highly suggest you pick the ARC system up in your game and use it and implement it to see how it works for you. I'd be interested to see how many people out there actually implement this in their games. Maybe not the ARC system, but the idea of having players have a little small background and maybe adding some flavor to it for family and things like that. Because I used to do that a lot as well. That, what type of family do you have? And it became to the point that people would be like, my family's dead. I'm a loner. I'm taking revenge for my family dying in a fire. And I got sick of that bullcrap. And I would tell people, no, your family can't be dead. Not everybody's family is going to be dead. And I just got sick of it, so I started using this ARC system when I got the inspiration from Carl for his 1x1x1 system. And it actually works out a little bit better because people actually do put down names and stuff like that, and they kind of get into the spirit of playing the game with these things, thinking that it'll be used in their, in the adventure. And I need to use it a little bit more often. I think I forgot about it when I did play Palladium, though a lot of people I did ask for a decent backstory, and they gave it to me. So I do appreciate how my group does that. Not everybody, but a good portion of them does that. And it makes it a lot more fun for me as a GM because I get to add these little things in there to nudge at them and play the game out. Like one character had a background that he was a summoner and his wife died when he tried to summon a certain demon and released it upon the land. So I was having him throughout the campaign see visions of his wife walking around and he was following her, and there was a demon actually doing this to play tricks on him just to screw with him. Another player came from a royal background and he was kicked out on his own to prove himself. So he had to actually, go through various instances where his character would be challenged to see how he would lead certain people. Another character came from a kingdom that was very hushly talked about. So, and it was fun kind of bringing that into light, having people from this kingdom that's hidden away just randomly show up, and what would he do? Because he's trying to keep his kingdom a secret because they've always been hidden in the valley of the mountains. Things like that will make a game more interesting when you use the background for the players and watch their eyes light up as you bring it in. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd like to hear it. Ask the DM at theevildm.com. Theevildm.com is my website. You can keep up with everything I'm doing. There's voicemail options here or there, website and for Spotify. I think we're over. I just looked recently. We're doing really well. I think we're over 100 reviews on Spotify, so we're doing really well with the podcast. Don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe here on the YouTube. If you're enjoying this here, you can always subscribe and listen to the daily podcast on YouTube. Your choice. I have the podcast wherever you have a platform. So enjoy. Keep it original. Keep it old school. Remember, there's no drama. There's no clickbait. There's all gaming here on this channel. Good night and God bless.